Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from even-explanation-304. AITA for aborting my baby after seeing my boyfriend messaging other women and interacting with them on social media. My boyfriend of 5.5 years has been wanting a baby for a while now, and he asked me many times to have one with him. Before agreeing, I told him I would only have a baby if we agreed to do right by each other and ensure our baby is in a two-parent household, as I want the best for any child I ever have, and don't want them to experience things that I did. We agreed we were on the same page. We tried for months, and finally I was pregnant. A couple of nights ago, I saw he has been responding to women's Instagram stories. During the time we were trying for a baby, I was actually pregnant. We didn't know as it was very early, and he flirted and gave a woman his number. We have had issues like this in the past, but I thought we were on the same page as far as starting a family and both doing right. Now I don't want to be with him as he broke trust and did something I don't want to forgive because he did this while I am pregnant with the baby he begged me for. I feel he will never change if he was willing to do these things while I am pregnant and while trying to conceive. I don't want to raise my baby in a broken home as a single mom and have to do parent. I don't want the baby to have to experience a home with no dad and with me struggling to do it alone. I don't feel like it's fair to the baby or to me. I feel terrible because both of our families know and are very excited. I wanted this baby and family, but now things are not the same. Am I wrong if I choose to abort? OP is not the AH for considering an abortion. Given her boyfriend's repeated betrayal, she has every right for prioritizing her well-being and aborting the child. If she doesn't go for abortion, she may have to face unstable future, which will of course ruin his life. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's boyfriend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from SM Gifts Throw A. AITA for immediately donating the gifts my stepmother bought for my children. I, 34F, have no contact with my stepmother, Mary. Long story not worth explaining. Edit. I loosely explained in a comment. It's been 5 years since I cut her off from my and my family's lives. As such, she hasn't seen my son, 8M, since he was 3 years old, and she's never met my daughter, 4F. Throughout the years, she has attempted to contact me and my kids several times. My father used to help her sometimes. He'd tell me how awful she felt, how much she wanted to meet my daughter, and that the kids needed their grandma. I've never considered her a grandparent, as both my mother and mother-in-law are active in their lives. Several fights later, my father apologized and stopped assisting her, but Mary still tries to get in touch with me every now and then. I always state I have no interest in seeing her or allowing her to be a part of my children's lives. My son's birthday was in September. The day of, neither of my kids were home. A large box was delivered to our building. I opened it to find more than a dozen new toys for my children, along with a note that read, "Grandma Mary loves you both." As I later found out, she had bought the toys on a recent trip to the US. I couldn't think of that as anything besides a manipulation tactic. My children are barely aware that she exists. Why would she send them both a box full of toys on my son's birthday? I also think she planned the delivery for a time she thought the kids would be home so that they'd see the toys immediately. Either way, my husband and I decided not to keep any of the toys. We donated them all throughout October. The kids never saw any of them. Last week my father called me. He said Mary had just told him about the toys and wanted to know whether the kids liked them. I told him the truth, and we had an argument. My father called me cruel and ungrateful for what I did. He said he understands Mary and I don't get along, but she still cared enough to spend hundreds of dollars on a loving gesture for my children, and the least I could have done was let them know about it. I honestly couldn't imagine keeping those toys, but I'd be lying if I said the amount of money spent on them didn't make me feel guilty. AITA, edit. Update. Hey guys, thank you for your input. Many of you stated you wouldn't be able to make any judgment without knowing why I have no contact with Mary. I think that's completely fair. I explained it better in the comments, and I recommend reading them. But Mary was awful to me when I was young. I loathe talking about it, though therapy has been helping with that. but it stemmed from the fact that I wouldn't allow her to be a second mother to me. I went into low contact with her in my early 20s, and she'd still treat me like crap whenever I saw her. When my son was born, Mary begged me to give her a second chance. She apologized for upsetting me and promised she had changed. I warned her that if she ever overstepped or even remotely hinted at going back to her old ways, she'd never see me or my family again. To be honest, I'm surprised she lasted 3 years. I didn't clarify that in my original post because not only is this something I have trouble talking about, but I also didn't think it was relevant. I was asking about the donations, not whether I was justified in cutting ties with Mary, but I do agree that it's best to have the complete picture before making judgment calls, so I apologize for withholding that. Another thing I didn't mention is that Mary never had children of her own, and my only sister is child-free. My kids are the only grandchildren in the family, which I think is why Mary wants to see them so badly. Anyway, I went through your comments and organized a list of things I wanted to say to my father. I thought about making one for Mary as well, but I doubt she'd actually listen to it. I spoke to my father on Saturday. He said he talked with his wife. Apparently, Mary bought the gifts because it broke her heart to be unable to watch my kids grow up, and she hoped the toys would at least let them know how much she loved them. My father also said that Mary told him about the gifts. He's insistent he had no idea, because it had been a while, and me and the kids hadn't thanked her yet. My husband and I have our children say "thank you" through voice messages whenever they get a gift from someone who isn't nearby. We've done that for my father before, so I think that's what Mary was expecting. I explained that it didn't matter how thoughtful he thought Mary's gesture was. When I cut ties with her, I cut her off completely. That means no gifts, no phone calls, and no contact with my children, directly or not. She can claim to love them all she wants, but she will never have any involvement in their lives. We had another argument, but I put my foot down. I told my father that if he ever attempts to assist her in any way, or brings up Grandma Mary to my children, he will never see me again. I'll allow him to be a part of his grandkids' lives, but he needs to accept that his wife won't be. Ultimately, my father agreed, but I intend to watch him closely from now on. I don't want to cut contact with him, but this will be his final chance. If he screws this up, he's done. While I'm not 100% confident this will last, I'm still happy with this outcome. I've been going through a fairly stressful time at work, and it feels great to have this weight off my shoulders now. More importantly, I feel like I'm well equipped to deal with whatever comes next. I don't intend to write any further updates. Once again, thank you. Edit. Second update. I really didn't think I'd update again, but I figured I'd let you know that Mary sent us another box. This time, my father warned me. Last week, he sent me a text that read, "Mary is sending Christmas gifts for the kids. I promise I just found out." I was at work, and sure enough, the box was there when I got home. My husband and I managed to take it to our bedroom before our children saw it. The box was smaller than the previous one, and we counted 10 toys with Christmas wrapping inside. 6 for my daughter, 4 for my son. There was also another note, which read pretty much the same as the last one, with an added, "I'm sorry you didn't get my other gifts." I decided to text Mary this time. I unblocked her and wrote the following. "Anything you try to give me or my children will be donated immediately. Please stop attempting to contact us. You will never be allowed near my family." I then blocked her again. This was my first time unblocking, or even contacting, her in 5 years. The next day, I spoke to my father. He said Mary didn't tell him she was sending me the box until after doing so. He'd been out of town for a week at that point, and she hadn't said anything about buying my kids more presents before he left. She let it slip to him over the phone, and then begged him not to tell me. Apparently, Mary was distraught at my text. That's all I know about how she's reacting to this. My father is doing his Christmas shopping right now, and there are a number of reasons why I don't think he was involved in this. Still, I don't feel like I can trust him right now. I told him he will see me and my family less often than usual for the next few months. We'll see each other on Christmas Eve, party at my cousin's. Mary was banned years ago. And then in February for my aunt's birthday, weekend trip. Mary's not coming. Besides that, I intend to remain in low contact with him for a while. I don't intend to keep that up forever, but I want to be able to trust him again. My father said he understood. I know a lot of you wanted me to cut my father off. I'm not sure I can explain why. but I don't want to do that. Even if I did, I'm not ready to. It might happen in the future, and I'm well aware it should be happening now. But I do think we still have a shot at making this work. This entire week was crap. The first time Mary sent us the gifts, I was just confused. This time, I was very upset. I cried when I read her note. I am feeling much better now, though. My husband and I donated the new toys over the weekend, and getting rid of them felt great. I am very glad we managed to protect our children from this. Also, let me add one final time. I came to AITA to ask whether I was wrong for donating the gifts, not for cutting ties with Mary. So, if anyone else intends to tell me I should allow her in my kids' lives, don't bother. I will not budge on this. I don't think I have anything else to add. Thank you all, and happy holidays. OP is not the AH for donating the gifts. She's enforcing clear boundaries with her stepmother to protect her children from a toxic influence, prioritizing her family's well-being and peace over appeasing her stepmom's manipulative gestures is entirely justified. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's stepmom 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Cupcake Practical 9626. AITA for not attending my best friend's wedding and not talking to her since. Hi guys, I'm just curious and thought I'll get some outside advice. I had this best friend named Steph. We clicked really well and have all the same likes, etc. I've known her about 3 years. One day, Steph tells me that her and her boyfriend, let's call him Tom, are getting married and would love if I was there. At this time, all of us, me, my husband, Steph, her boyfriend, are all living with my parents. They had got married over a Zoom call, since Tom's dad is a pastor, and they had family and friends join the call to be a part of the ceremony. I didn't want to miss it, so I left work early, which counted against me, drove to pick up flowers and decorations and food to make that moment for them as special as possible. I had ballons, flowers, a trail of roses, music for their first dance, and I decorated the patio where we can eat after. It was really nice. Fast forward a bit, and we were all moved out of my parents' house, and I received an invitation to their wedding. They wanted to have the wedding they didn't get to have. The wedding was going on the same month as a vacation I planned with my husband and our mutual friends. The wedding is a 5 hours drive, and we would have to get a hotel to stay overnight. At this time, I have a 9-month-old daughter, and kids are not allowed at the wedding. I did try my best to plan to go. I had a babysitter lined up, and my parents and my husband and I were going to drive down together and split the cost for travel and room expenses. Steph was aware of our plans. Long story short, my dad was extremely sick the week of the wedding and couldn't travel due to him being on dialysis. He called Steph and told her he couldn't make it. Steph called me and asked me if I was still going, and I told her IDK and that I'm trying to figure it out. Steph was mad at me and said I should have planned better and gave me a deadline to let her know if I'm coming or not. Later that day, she messaged me and told me not to bother and that she already removed my husband and I off the guest list. She stated again that I could have planned better and that she's really hurt and disappointed. She stated that when we all moved, I've never made an effort to come visit, but she's visited us too, 3 times, etc. I just apologized and told her that I want to be there and that the last-minute change in plans is what's making it difficult and that I couldn't afford to do the trip. She stopped responding, and the day of the wedding I sent her a MSG along the lines of, "I hope this day is everything you dreamed it would be," and apologized again for not being there. She never responded, and we haven't spoken since. I figured I'll reach out to her a few days after the wedding, but after I thought about it, I realized that my friend is extremely self-centered and decided against it. Here's why. When I moved out of my parents' place, my brother and I decided to get a place big enough for my husband and daughter and his pregnant wife and daughter. My brother and I get along very well, and we saw a great opportunity to save money by splitting the cost of living. When I talked about this with Steph, she had nothing but negative things to say. Along the lines of, if any of my friends see that, they would think you're weird, you should be an adult, etc. Another reason. When she moved out with Tom, they had a rocky start, and she called me daily to vent, and I made sure I was always available, and she knew I was there to support her. Another reason. When I told her I was pregnant, she was negative, and voiced how I should have this and that before getting pregnant, and that I'm crazy. My kid has never lacked in anything, and is extremely taken care of. Another reason. When I found out I was pregnant a second time, I told her and got the same reaction. Unfortunately, I ended up having a miscarriage. When I told her, her response was, "You were in your first trimester, these things happen." We never spoke about it again. She never checked on me. I cried for weeks and had to take time off work because of how upset I was that I lost a kid. This happened a month before her wedding. It's upsetting that she disregards everything that I did do for her. I was there when she got married the first time and was always supportive when she was down. She complained about us visiting, but I can't just drop everything and visit you. I have a family and a kid. Not to mention that on 2 other occasions, I told her that I'm able to visit, and she told me not to come on both occasions, but loves to say I didn't try to visit her. She even complained that it cost money to have me on the list, and I said I'll pay her back and asked her how much. She then says it's not about the money, but yet brings it up multiple times. Recently, I've been thinking about reaching out to her, but after typing this out, I don't think I should. My husband certainly thinks I shouldn't. She still talks with my parents, and I found out she's having a baby. IDK, should I bury the hatchet? I'm not a person who holds a grudge, but still. LMK, your thoughts? OP is not the AH for not attending her friend's wedding. Steph's dismissive, self-centered behavior and lack of empathy toward OP's struggles suggest the friendship was one-sided, and in this situation, avoiding people like OP's friend is the best option. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's friends 3 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Icy-Purpose 4990. AITA for no longer being friends with someone who doesn't even know who they are at 35 years old? So, this friend started out as a coworker. Most of my coworkers didn't have any patience for her, aside from myself and maybe 2 others. She definitely had her quirks with things like being high-strung, taking way too long to do certain tasks, making bigger deals out of things that truly didn't matter. She isn't a bad person by any means, but she bumped heads with a lot of people, and I definitely understand their frustrations. I felt bad for her, and the fact that she was always the odd man out, even though it didn't seem to bother her LOL. Also because it seemed as though she didn't have many friends in general, even though she supposedly went to this super prestigious college and was a debutante. So, when I would have little movie or wine nights at my house, I started to invite her, and she was super excited to be included. But this would end with her not leaving. Things would wind down. Everyone else would eventually go on their way. But not her. She would just make herself more comfortable and act like we were about to make a night of it. Even after giving the usual hints and saying things like, "Well, it's getting late." She wouldn't take the hint. I've never experienced someone acting this way, so I thought maybe I wasn't clearly conveying the fact that she needed to leave. This happened on a few occasions, with one time her claiming to be too drunk and just deciding to go help herself to laying down in my bed. I was completely taken aback, but also too tired to really deal with it, so in the morning, I expected her to just grab her stuff and go. Maybe even feel a little embarrassed that she just invited herself to a sleepover in my bed. Nope. She pops a squat at my kitchen table and asks if I have coffee. There were other things that happened as well. Even though she was in her mid-30s, she seemed to constantly be reinventing herself, which isn't necessarily a negative thing. But it would be because she liked a certain man and would turn herself into what she thinks they would want based on their hobbies, personality, likes. It reminded me very much of what high school girls do who have never been in a relationship before. So, they pretend to be someone else in order to get a guy's attention. For example, she liked this one guy. They only spoke over social media, even though he lived locally, and they had been chatting for over a year. He never made any attempt to meet her. It was clear to the rest of us that he was being polite and nice, but had no real interest in her. But she knew one of his things was that he loved and owned a certain breed of dog. I so happened to have owned that breed of dog myself. So, she wanted to have a wine night one evening. So, my friend and I are at my house waiting on her. We are just having a laid-back girls' night, and so we are basically in pajamas. She shows up dressed to the nines with a full face of makeup and hair freshly done, as if we are going out on the town. She then proceeded to ask where my dog is. Mind you, she's not an animal lover, and has never shown an interest in any of my pets really. So, my friend and I are just looking at each other really confused. She finds my dog, hands us her phone, and asks us to take a bunch of pictures of her with the dog. Has a full-on photo shoot with my dog LOL. Looking back on it, no, all I can do is laugh at how ridiculous it was. Of course, she posted the pics on social media, hoping to get the guy's attention. It didn't work the way she thought it would. We tried explaining to her in a nice way that if someone is truly interested in you, they will make an effort. But she's the type of person who has tunnel vision, and you can't tell her anything. Not too long after her failed photo shoot, she decided to randomly show up at his job to bring him a gift because she knew it was his birthday. Mind you, she has never met him before. They mostly talk on social media and have talked on the phone a few times. So, she just shows up at his job like a crazy person. She even takes a video with him and posted it online, and it's so second-handedly cringe and embarrassing because you can see how uncomfortable he is and just how awkward the entire thing is. Apparently, this also didn't go in her favor, and she stopped talking about him, blocked him on social media, and deleted the pictures of her and my poor dog from her page as well. But she was constantly doing things like this. Eventually, I, like everyone else, grew tired of her shenanigans, her lack of boundaries, the way she started to openly talk down on my other close friends because she didn't like them, and they didn't like her. She would make everything about herself. There was even an incident at my house where I was having a going-away party for one of my very close friends. My other friend and her husband, who were on the verge of a divorce, ended up having a verbal altercation, and she tried to stick her 2 cents in, which resulted in the husband slamming the door in her face as he was leaving. She got super upset and emotional and basically wanted everyone to baby and comfort her. She kept saying, "He knows me, he knows me. I can't believe he treated me like that." That was another thing she did that was very strange, by the way. She could have one interaction with a person and claim that she knows them and they know her, like in a close way, not a passing acquaintance type of way, if that makes sense. She would also just randomly call or text me and tell me that she was going to be in my area in the next 30 to 45 minutes and wants to know if she can stop by. I told her on several occasions that I'm not a last-minute type of person and I need more notice. She would say, "Okay," then literally a week later, try the same thing again. Needless to say, I got sick of giving her the benefit of the doubt, and her presence was just bringing drama and stress to my life. So I started distancing myself. She actually ended up moving away for a while, which helped. But she came back not too long ago, and she's been trying the same things again, calling me out of nowhere and asking if she can come over because she's going to be in my area. I have told her no every single time. I just can't do it anymore, and I know I already put up with way more than most people would. But I truly did feel sorry for her and thought that maybe having a friend would help. But she clearly needs more than a friend. Yes, as far as I know, she is in therapy and has been for quite a while. Maybe she needs to find a different outlet of some type. OP is not the AH for ending the friendship. She tried supporting her friend despite her boundary issues and self-centered behavior, but the stress and drama became too much. Prioritizing personal well-being over a one-sided friendship is reasonable and justified. As for scores, I would rate OP's friend 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye-bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.